You wouldn't even know if you looked at him that he was the type of person that I'm about to explain. And we was riding in the car with his girlfriend and she was explaining JR. I'm looking at him like, what? There's no way in the world JR used to do this.
Game over.
Most people think life is about what they do, but every meaningful outcome in your life was decided before you even took action, not by effort, but by identity. There are two games being played at all times. The visible game, goals, habits, strategy, and execution. And the invisible game, how safe your nervous system feels, how you see yourself, and what your identity believes is allowed. Most people spend their entire lives trying to win the visible game while losing the invisible one. And the invisible game always decide our life's outcomes. So there's two programs that we run by. We have survival programming and then adaptive sovereignty. By default, most humans are running off survival programming, which makes sense based on our ancestors. What they would do, trying to hunt, take care of their family, they had to always be in fight or flight mode or survival programming. So when you're running on this programming, it's not because you're broken, but because it once kept us safe. Survival identity asks you these questions. I want you to think about them. How do I avoid risk? How do I stay accepted? Which is probably a big one for most people because in this day and age, we have social media, everyone wants to be accepted. And then the scarcity mindset, which majority of the population have, they always ask this question: how do I keep what I currently have? So the framework that I created, the adaptive sovereignty, is going to ask you different questions. What responses align, regulated, and chosen right now? That's a shift from reaction, which is survival programming, to authorship. You are becoming the author of your own destiny. You are becoming the person that creates their life versus reacting to life and getting whatever is given to you. So that's the difference between effort, creating your own future, creating your own life, and inevitability, which is reaction to something that's happening to you. So one is like, this is bound to happen, versus one is like, I create what is happening. You want to be the person that's creating at all times. Life is all about creation. I always say these things and people might think I have my tinfoil hat on, but it's true. Life is created by design, not by just happenstance. Most people think that because they're alive and they're living and they're doing what they do day to day, they're getting what, their cards that they're dealt, but it's not the case. And that's what I'm going to show you over this series. Your identity precedes reality. And what I mean by that is your nervous system decides what feels safe. Your identity decides what feels possible. And then your behavior simply follows the orders from both of those. That's why people read the same book, take the same course, and hear the same advice. And only one of them changes. And it's not because of discipline, because only one of them updated who they believe they are. You can't change your nervous system, but what you can do is change your identity, which is gonna change your emotions, which is gonna change how you react. And that's the whole point. We're trying to get to the point of where you have adaptive sovereignty and you're choosing your power in whatever, you're choosing your authority in whatever you're doing. And that's how you command and you build the life that you want. It's not happening to you just by being alive. So I don't know if you've heard me mention before, I talked about Vareva mind. Vareva mind doesn't start with motivation. It starts with awareness, regulation, and identity recalibration. That's more than any type of therapy that you might get. Therapy treats symptoms versus treating the root cause of the problem. And that's what you want to do. You want to shift your identity to being the person that you want to be. Because based on what I just said, your life is going to start to correspond to what you believe or what your identity is. It has no choice but to, which goes into feeding your nervous system. When your nervous system is regulated, the mind becomes flexible. And that's what you want. You want a flexible mind so that it doesn't matter what circumstance comes your way, you know how to adjust. You don't get emotional. You don't react, because a lot of times when people react, they react not off instinct based on past experiences. That doesn't necessarily mean their past experiences were good. So now you might react to something, maybe it's somebody in a relationship that you're with and you just made a good situation or maybe a okay situation turn worse, versus you thinking and having a regulated nervous system and having a different identity that controls your emotions. So you're going to respond with a calm, clear-headed decision versus a reaction to something that someone else might have done. And then they have their own situation going on and they reacted to you. So you don't want to, feedback, I talk about it all the time. You don't want to react to somebody else's feedback to you, because that's something that you're doing that you could change if that person's reacting that way, or that person could just be in a bad mood because their day could have started out in, however it did. But you don't want to have a reaction to somebody else's action. You want to be calm and make a level-headed decision and choose the right decision for that particular situation. So back to what I was saying, when the nervous system becomes regulated, the mind becomes flexible. And when identity becomes flexible, adaptation replaces force. So you won't have that road rage. You won't have these emotional outbursts because, again, you have structured your identity in a way that those things don't happen. So you don't need more pressure. You need a new internal architecture. You need to rebuild internally, because a lot of people don't know, and if you watch my videos over the course of time, I'll talk about how I grew up. I'll tell you a story. One of my friends in college, JR, I went home with him one time during spring break, and we just happened to be in the car with his girlfriend, and she was like, oh my God. If people knew JR was going to school for theology. So he was a pastor. He was 24 years old. He looked like Mace, the rapper, but he was always level-headed, calm, chill. You wouldn't even know if you looked at him that he was the type of person that I'm about to explain. So JR used to smoke weed, skip school. I think he even sold drugs. He had a bad attitude. I never knew that. So when we went and we was riding in the car with his girlfriend and she was explaining JR, I'm looking at him like, what? There's no way in the world JR used to do this. So one day when we got back to the dorms, I was like, man, I did not know that you used to be like that. He was like, man, that's good. That's a good sign, because the old me has been washed away. It's a good sign that his internal architecture had changed. So now I only saw him as a person that he was trying to become. I only saw him as a pastor. I only saw him as a friendly, nice guy who I played basketball with sometimes. So I never knew any of that. He used to wear do-rags. It was so crazy to see some of the things or hear about who he was. I was similar. I mean, I used to have, I won't get into details about my life. Maybe at some point I will. I did do a video about my neighborhood. You might want to go back and watch that. But I had a Cutlass with rims on it. I had, the car with the loud music. I was that guy because of my environment. But if you look at me now, you wouldn't know that. So my internal architecture changed, and I changed it myself. And that's the goal for what we're trying to get you to do. You want to be like me and JR. You want to change the old person that you used to be. It could be somebody from 2 or 3 years ago. You want to be the person that's, confident, the person that is the millionaire. You want to be the person that's taking care of his household, or the mother, or whatever it is. You want to design whatever that is. And that's what the goal is for this series. So what I'm going to do right now is give you a simple interrupt to begin rewiring right now, so you don't have to wait for the entire 8 to 9 episodes. So here's what I want you to do. Before your next decision, don't ask, what should I do? I want you to ask yourself, who am I being right now? And is this a survival identity or a sovereign one? This single pause and asking yourself this question changes everything, because what does it do? It shifts your identity from survival programming to adaptive sovereignty. And so you're now moving in your own power, right? You're dictating how this outcome is going to go based on what you just asked your subconscious mind. Who am I being right now? Am I being the person that I used to be? Or am I being the person that I'm becoming, or the person that I want to be, or the person that I am? I like to say I am, because saying I am is putting yourself in the now. So that's what we want to get you to. So ask yourself that question the next time you're about to make a decision. So think about this. I want you to understand this. You are not stuck. You're structured. And once you see the structure that I've pointed out, you can redesign it. People always think that they're broken. You're not broken. You just didn't get emotional training, or you just didn't get the right structure. And that's the only thing you have to do. Nobody's broken. Everybody's doing the best that they can with the resources that they have or the resources that were given to them. So this series is about building the inner architecture that makes the outer results inevitable. Welcome to the Inner Architect. Kobe goes back to the free throw line. At that point in time, Kobe knew he tore his Achilles. Gary Vee, I saw an interview. Gary was like, I told him, I think he tore his Achilles.